Everyone, welcome to the July 23rd, 26th Metropolitan Planning Commission. We will start with our opening announcements, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and planning department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the commission and the board will be retained by the secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
Before we get going with our roll call, I would ask that everyone that has electronic devices such as cell phone mainly is to either put it on manner mode or on vibrate, please. Now we will do our roll call. Philip?
Yes, sir. Aldridge?
Oh, here.
Snuck up on you. Top of the list.
Heard that name somewhere.
Zimbelman?
Here.
Fry? Mater?
Here.
McKay?
Here.
Duell? Appears to be absent. Bill Johnson is absent. Hyde? Klontz? Warren?
Here.
Joe Johnson appears to be absent. Austin?
Here.
Williams Bay also appears to be absent. And Thiessen is also absent. Sir, I show 1, 2, 3, 9 members present.
Thank you, sir. Now what we'll do is go to the approval of the minutes for meeting on June 25th. I show Commissioner Klontz and also Joe Johnson is absent. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as given?
Move we approve.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Fry and a second by Commissioner Aye. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. One extension. 801. Now we will look for consideration of subdivision committee recommendations for consent. First agenda item is subdivision 2026-0004, This was deferred from 7/9. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we can take 2.1 on consent. Next agenda item is 2.2 subdivision 2026-00025. This was deferred from July 23rd. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone from the audience would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will take 2.2 on consent. Next agenda item 2.3 subdivision 2026-00028 has been deferred to August the 13th. So if anybody is here to hear that particular case, it has been deferred to August the 13th. Next agenda item 2.4 subdivision 2026-00029 that has also been deferred to August the 13th. So if anybody here is to hear that case, it has been deferred to August the 13th. Next agenda item 2.5 has been deferred to August the 13th. So if anybody is here to hear that one, that's subdivision 2026-00038. Next agenda item is 2.7 subdivision 2026-00041, one step final plat, West Central, and West, I-235. Is there anyone on the city council would like to, or excuse me, the commission would like to hear that case? I'm giving everybody a promotion, I think. Seeing none, is anyone from the audience that would like to hear that case? Seeing none, we will move 2.7 to consent. Next item is 2.8 subdivision 2026-00024. Approximate location on this is Colder Ridge, second edition, and it's at West 55th Street and South Meridian Avenue in the city. Is anyone on the commission would like to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone from the audience would like to hear this case? We will move 2.8 to consent. Also let the record show that Commissioner Joe Johnson has just arrived.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve 2.1, 2.2, 2.7, and 2.8.
We have a motion by Commissioner Zimbelman to approve, and a second by Commissioner Warren. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 10-0. Now we will go to a public hearing, vacation items. 3.1 vacation 2026-00025. This is a vacation request in the city. Approximate location on this is North Webb Road and East 13th Street North. Is anyone on the commission would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will move 3.1 to consent. Do we have a motion to approve 3.1 vacation? Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion for approval by Commissioner McKay, a second by Commissioner Warren. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed 10-0. Now we will move to the public hearing items and see what can be heard on consent. First agenda item is 4.1 conditional use 2026-00048. It's a conditional use in the county for accessory apartment. Approximate location is South 97th Street West and West 103rd Street South. Is there anyone on the commission would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will move 4.1 to consent. Next agenda item is 4.2, conditional use 2026-00085. This is requesting a helipad for Wesley Medical Center, East Central and North Route 10. Is there anyone on the commission would like to hear this case? Saying none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will move 4.2 to consent. The next agenda item is 4.3. Staff is recommending denial. This is a PUD 2026-00015. Is the agent or applicant present? The agent is here. So we will be hearing 4.3. Next agenda item is 4.4. I'd like to get a staff update on this, please.
Yes, sir. This item was deferred to today's meeting from the last meeting because the applicant was not here. Staff is recommending denial of the limited commercial, but we are recommending approval of neighborhood retail. After the meeting 2 weeks ago, we did receive correspondence from the applicant saying that they were in agreement with the staff recommendation for neighborhood retail. So unless a commissioner wishes to hear it or if there's public comment, there is the opportunity to take it on consent today.
Okay, Philip, thank you. Is there anyone from the commission that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will move 4.4 to consent agenda. Next item on the agenda is 4.5. This is a zone case 2026-00029. Zone change request in the city from SF5 single family residential district to neighborhood office. Approximate location on this is West 2nd Street North and Tyler Road. Is there anyone from the audience, or excuse me, the commission would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we will move 4.5 to the consent agenda. Next item, 4.6, zone case 2026-00030, zone change request in the city from light limited commercial district to SFI single family district to general commercial district for an RV campground. Is the approximate location on this is West Maple Street and North 151st Street North. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to hear this case? Yes. We will be hearing 4.6. Next agenda item is 4.7, zone case 2026-00031. Staff is recommending denial. So we will be hearing 4.7. Is the agent or applicant here? Yes. Thank you. Next agenda item is 4.8, zone case 2026-00033. This is zone change in the city from general commercial to limited industrial and multifamily B to Central Business District. Approximate location on this is Topeka Avenue, St. Francis, Elm Street, Pine, almost all of downtown, come to think of it. I will be chairing this on this, but I will not be making any comments. I am going to abstain from voting because I do have a business relation with the applicant on this. Next agenda item. Well, before we do that, first of all, is there anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Saying none. Is there anyone from the audience want to hear this case? I skated on that one. We will put that one on the agenda. Next agenda item is 4.8. Well, excuse me, we just did that one. 4.9. DER 2026-00007, update from the, or comprehensive plan amendment for the city and the county, so we will be hearing that case. Is there a motion to hear, yes, Commissioner Fry?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to ask on item 4.4, since the staff recommendation was to deny LC, but the applicant is agreeing to approve, in the motion to approve on consent, do we need to list that since there was 2 actions on this suggestion from staff?
My understanding is no, because in consent, you're approving the staff recommended language on each item. And so the staff recommended language is to approve neighborhood retail.
But that's not what was published on the agenda, so that's why I'm asking.
Clarification from staff, was this agenda published with the new recommendation?
The recommendation on the staff report is to deny LC and approve neighborhood retail, and that's what was online.
If I may, but since the staff was in contact with the applicant, and he agreed to the change, that eliminated the denial portion of that. And we do have an email also concurring that same thing, if that makes a difference.
Yeah, I think this juncture, either would be acceptable since it was published with the recommendation of the alternative, it would be fine. If staff is concerned or if the board is concerned, they can just approve that one separately with the cleaner language that's listed in the staff report.
Okay, what is the will of the commission? We've already.
So with that, I will make a motion to approve items 4.1, 4.2, 4.4 with the NR recommendation, 4.5 and 4.8.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Fry and a second by Commissioner High. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion has passed. Okay, the next agenda item is 4.3, the PUD 2026-00015.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this case.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Commission. Philip Zevenbergen with Planning Staff. The item before you, PUD 2615, is a zone change request from SF20 Single Family Residential to PUD to create the Kellogg 119th Power Center PUD number 167. The property is located on the southwest corner of West Kellogg, or US Highway 54-400, and South 119th Street West. The applicant is requesting the zone change in order to provide a flexibility in a mixture of development types, anywhere from any type of residential density from single family to multifamily, possibly mixed with commercial and possibly mixed with industrial development, in addition to some other custom zoning development standards, as we'll discuss later on in the report. In regards to land use, as I mentioned before, all residential housing types that are allowed in limited commercial would be permitted. That includes anything from a single family home all the way up to multifamily density of 75.1 dwelling units an acre. It would also allow all commercial uses as permitted in the general commercial district, in addition to all industrial uses permitted by right in the limited industrial district. The staff report indicates that several uses would be prohibited on all parcels. That would be recycling collection stations, marine facility, recreational, sexually oriented business, freight terminal, gas or fuel storage and sales, vehicle storage yard, wrecking and salvage, and transfer station. If the applicant were to have requested a zone change simply to limited industrial, they would have been permitted all of the proposed uses listed except for the residential, which are not permitted in the limited industrial district. Typically because industrial and residential would not have compatibility between them, regarding the higher intensity uses of industrial versus the lower intensity uses of the residential. The PUD proposes that any use that would require a conditional use in a typical zoning classification would require an amendment to the PUD. It also requires a site plan approval for each individual development as development occurs across the site. The site plan would have to be reviewed and approved prior to the issuance of a building permit. The PUD is currently shown as 3 parcels, which mirror the tax parcels that are on this site. You have a large parcel 1, which is along the Kellogg frontage and makes up really all the frontage along 119th as well. Parcel 2 is in the far southwest corner and does not have access to any public right-of-way. Access would have to be provided throughout the site. And then parcel 3 is a triangular portion here, which terminates at a point with parcel 1 on 119th. What you see down here is listed as railroad right-of-way is now the Prairie Sunset Trail, which is like a biking and walking trail in the county. The PUD text identifies setbacks for each parcel that are shown on the property. There's a 60-foot setback on Kellogg on 119th, 50 feet along the west boundary for parcel 1, that's along this boundary here. And then it would have a 0-foot setback along the south unless there's residential development, and then it would require a 50-foot setback between non-residential and residential uses. Parcel 2 has a 10-foot setback on the north unless there's a mixture of non-residential and residential uses, and then that would have to be 50 feet, and then 25 feet along the south boundary. And 0 feet in between parcels 2 and 3, again, unless there's a mix of non-residential and residential. The setbacks on parcel 3 essentially mirror parcel 2, so I won't necessarily go into detail. Parcel 3 would have a height requirement or height maximum of 85 feet, and parcels 2 and 3 would have a maximum height of 45 feet for buildings. Regarding compatibility standards, this Unified Zoning Code has typical standards for setback and height requirements. This is a PUD, so they can essentially write their own request into there. Overall, a maximum compatibility setback would be a 25-foot setback, and a maximum height compatibility standard would be 35 feet when non-residential is next to residential uses. The PUD writes in compatibility language that mirrors this where non-residential and residential uses abut each other or are across the street, both internal to the PUD as well as external to the PUD as well. The PUD requires screening of non-residential uses when they are next to residential uses. This is a deviation from the code. The zoning code requires screening of non-residential uses when it's abutting or across the street from residential zoning districts. So it's based on the zoning type and not the use. Thanks, Tybin. The property to the south is zoned SF20, but is predominantly undeveloped, and there's a significant amount of floodplain on it, which likely will make development on this parcel challenging in the future. Property to the west is PUD, but it's developed with single-family and duplex development, and so really the compatibility language that's in the PUD is more appropriate because it's talking about residential uses, so it's not requiring compatibility related on districts when there's no residential use on this larger tract to the south. In addition, it does require the compatibility next to the PUD because there's residential uses within the PUD. Rooftop mechanical equipment, as well as trash receptacles, loading docks, outdoor storage, and loading areas would have to be screened, and the language is essentially per the code. The property is currently in unincorporated Sedgwick County. It is anticipated that it would be annexed, and the PUD writes in language that landscaping would be per the Wichita Landscape Code. That would typically require, depending on how it's developed, landscape street yards, parking lot screening, landscape buffers, and parking lot trees. The PUD requires lighting standards similar to the zoning code. Similarly, the standards are written almost word for word as what the code requires, except for they take out residential zoning districts and they put in residential uses. So similar to the compatibility and the screening requirements, the height limit of light poles are restricted to 15 feet in height within 200 feet of residential uses and not restricted to 15 feet when they're within 200 feet of residential districts. Signage, like the landscape code, is written in anticipation of annexation, and that would be per the Wichita Sign Code. Parcel 1 is proposed to have sign rights per the LI district for non-residential uses, and sign rights per the limited commercial district for residential uses. Parcel 2 and Parcel 3 would have sign rights per the limited commercial district for all uses. They're requesting custom parking standards for residential uses. They were requesting 1 parking space per dwelling unit for all densities. This is a deviation once you start getting into the multifamily type development. Typically, a multifamily development would require 1.25 or 1.75 parking spaces per dwelling unit, depending on how many bedrooms are in the apartments. This would just require one parking space for any type of an apartment, as well as duplex or single family. It's also requesting a 25% reduction in parking standards for any non-residential use. So 75% of what is normally required in the zoning code for any type of non-residential use. If you go back to the zoning map, please. The surrounding context is a mixture of commercial and residential uses. There are some industrial zoning districts. However, the uses that we find within those industrial zoning districts really don't need the industrial zoning in order to function. Properties to the north across West Kellogg are in the city of Wichita, zone general commercial. 4 properties are developed commercially and several properties are undeveloped. Property to the west is in the city of Wichita. As I mentioned before, there's a planned unit development that has lower intensity residential in the form of duplex and or single family. You also have limited commercial and a community unit plan. The parcels most closest to the subject site are currently undeveloped. Property to the south is in Sedgwick County. Again, immediately to the south is the Prairie Sunset Trail. Farther south are properties zoned SF20. The largest tract here is undeveloped, and you have some residentially developed properties farther south. Properties to the east are also in the city of Wichita. You have limited industrial zoning, and it's a car dealership. And then you have single-family residential zoning with single-family homes. Kitty corner across northeast is the Rest Haven Cemetery, which is in limited industrial zoning as well. As I mentioned before, the development pattern in the vicinity is less intensive than the base zoning districts that are applied to those properties, particularly those that are in the limited industrial district. The property is unplatted. Platting is required prior to the issuance of any building permits. There are no other zoning cases associated with the subject site. Public utilities, though it's in Sedgwick County, it is surrounded by the city of Wichita, and there is ample access to Wichita water and sewer services. They pretty much skirt the site on most sides. They would have to be extended into the site in order for development to occur internally. West Kellogg, as we obviously know, is a 4-lane divided highway. There's also Kellogg Drive, which is a 2-lane frontage road that is part of the highway system. South 119th Street West, closest to the intersection, has been improved to 5 lanes with turn lanes. As you get farther south, it decreases in size away from the property. Regarding its conformance to the comprehensive plan, we find out it's in partial conformance with the future growth map. If you want to go to that image, please. The site has 3 different categories on it. So if you hang with me for a second, in the very southwest corner, which is on parcel 2, is new residential. Then we go up a little bit to the majority of parcel 1 and parcel 3, which is new residential employment mix. And then the far western side of parcel 1 is new employment. Those categories are defined in your staff report. The PUD would permit residential, commercial, and industrial uses, and it doesn't necessarily conform to all of those categories. The new employment category is the highest intensity category that the comprehensive plan shows for new development anyway, that encompasses all forms of commercial development. As we see here, it's on the far western side of the property, which is predominantly occupied by a floodway and a floodplain, which would make development of this western side challenging. In addition, that is also the side closest to some low intensity residential on the abutting site. The majority of this site is new residential employment mix, which anticipates a mixture of development, not necessarily, it could be commercial or residential. It actually calls for a mixture of the two. And then, of course, you have new residential, which does have some language regarding future commercial and industrial development within market-driven factors. Again, that's the part of the site that has the hardest way to access it. from street rights of way, as it would have to be internal and would have to cross the floodway. We find this also in partial conformance with the locational guidelines. Just a high-level review, major commercial and employment centers should be located at intersections of an arterial street and along highways and commercial corridors. It's in conformance to this one. It's at the corner of an arterial street and a commercial highway corridor. Another one says industrial and major commercial land uses that generate pollution, odor, noise, light, safety hazards, and high levels of traffic should be located away from residential areas and developed with screening, buffering, and site design features sufficient to mitigate adverse intensities. Though the proposed PUD contains provisions that promote compatibility between uses, it would permit a mixing of residential and industrial land uses within the PUD. The Unified Zoning Code specifically does not allow residential within limited industrial zoning districts because those land uses could have significant impacts to the health, safety, and welfare of residential uses. Industrial uses can create a nuisance in the form of noise, dust, light, and odor, as well as other things which are not compatible with residential development. The proposed PUD allows a mixture of uses on each parcel, and it's in staff's opinion that the proposed PUD should have a more detailed plan development by identifying very specific industrial uses as opposed to a general allowance, and have a more detailed PUD layout of development parcels and specifically identify where industrial development would be allowed and where residential would be allowed instead of a general mixture of the two. Compatibility Guideline 3B states mixed-use development should provide appropriate screening and buffering to ensure compatibility with surrounding lower intensity land uses while maintaining connectivity among uses. The PUD does require screening, landscaping, and compatibility standards inside and outside of the PUD. Lower intensity residential to the west is buffered by a significant floodway and floodplain, and lower intensity density residential to the southeast is buffered by South 119th Street West and the Prairie Sunset Trail. That being said, it is the determination of staff that the text of the PUD does not sufficiently separate possible mixing of industrial and residential uses within the PUD. So there's a good buffering and separation of lower intensity uses outside the PUD, but not necessarily well identified within the PUD based on how it's written. Finally, Land Use Compatibility Guideline 4D has actually been recently added to our comprehensive plan based on a recent action by the Board of County Commissioners. It states, zoning that would allow urban scale densities and require municipal services from development is not appropriate in the unincorporated areas of Sedgwick County, including the urban growth areas. In these situations, applicants are encouraged to seek annexation prior to submitting a change of zoning classification application. Wichita municipal services are well established in the area because in general the site is bounded by the city of Wichita. However, the guideline of the comprehensive plan encourages annexation prior to the submission of a zone change. The PUD cites various City of Wichita codes with the anticipation of annexation at some point in the future, but the annexation petition has not been filed. If approved and the land is not annexed, the PUD could cause conflict and confusion with the application of City of Wichita codes within land that is still in unincorporated Sedgwick County. Finally, the requested PUD we find that is not in conformance with the PUD purpose statement. That's listed in your staff report. Generally, it calls for well-planned developments. It does provide the opportunity for deviation from the standards of the zoning code to accomplish different types of development. And it's staff's opinion that though they are using it to accomplish those things, the way in which they're wanting to do it is not promoting quality urban design because it would allow for the mixture of uses that are generally not compatible with each other, nor do we think that the way that in which that is written provides sufficient buffering and compatibility between those uses. They could have submitted an application for general commercial with the establishment of a community unit plan in order to achieve some of the changes in their development standards regarding setbacks and parking, as well as having compatibility and screening things related to residential uses versus residential zoning districts. However, the only thing that they wouldn't get would be any of the industrial zoning. So a lot of where we're coming from is the mixture of industrial and residential development within the PUD. Overall, staff is recommending denial based on the golden factors that are listed in your staff report. Staff has provided recommended text of the PUD should the Planning Commission look to approve it. So starting on page 8, all of the text that you see in red are staff recommended text. High-level overview of what our general recommendation is essentially limiting development on parcel 1 to commercial and industrial development. That's the parcel that has the frontage along the highway. And then parcels 2 and 3 could have commercial uses as high as those allowed in limited commercial, in addition to the residential development, providing separation between to where you have a clear separation of where industrial development can be and where residential development can be. The rest of the red text essentially cleans up the language of the PUD to accomplish this as well, related to setbacks and things like that. Staff has heard one public comment from an individual who lives nearby with concerns about runoff, as well as possible concerns about the uses that were requested within the PUD. With that, I can go through the through the site photos. We're starting on the eastern side of it, and then we kind of work our way west. So this is looking away from the site, looking towards the car dealership. Next picture. This is farther south, looking away from the site on 119th. Next picture. We're looking towards the southern portion of the site. Next picture. Now we're looking towards the northern portion of the site, closer to Kellogg. Next picture. It's looking south into the site on the eastern side. Next picture. South into the site, farther west. Next picture. This is looking into the undeveloped community unit plan parcel. That's in the foreground. The houses you see in the background are in the PUD zoning. Next picture. This is within the PUD, kind of looking to the southeast towards the site. So these trees are along the back edge of the property. Next picture. This is looking north across Kellogg and some of the commercial uses on the north side of Kellogg. Next picture. And there's the eastern part of the site, again, looking north towards Kellogg. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Philip. Is there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, agent or applicant, please.
Thank you. Kim Edgington, PSC Consulting, 144 North Topeka, agent representing the applicant. I really was not expecting to be here in this capacity with you today because we have worked extensively with staff and at length to incorporate all of their suggested recommendations into the language of this PUD. We met on several occasions with staff and had a lot of back and forth of submitting language and making changes to that. So this was a bit of a surprise last week to find out that they were in fact recommending denial based on all of the conversations that we'd had in this and the materials that had been submitted to them. Especially when it comes to the development standards to protect residential uses from any possible higher intensity uses. We did so, we incorporated these protections by requiring significant compatibility standards, additional screening and landscaping, greater setbacks in order to avoid any compatibility issues. These enhanced requirements were made at the suggestion of staff to meet or exceed any zoning code requirements for industrial uses adjacent to residential uses. We found these suggestions that staff made to be reasonable and effective protections for property within the PUD. The residential uses are most likely to be located in this parcel 3 area. This parcel 2 area is a very difficult piece of ground, very challenging because there is significant floodway through here, and providing access to this area is very difficult. You can see that there is some street right of way to the west that we could potentially connect to, but for the most part, it's likely that this area will be used as fill for parts of the floodplain over here. But so there are some built-in protections here that will afford a lot of separation by this floodway for the proximity to residential, any residential next to commercial or industrial pieces. It is clearly more likely that any industrial commercial uses would be located in parcel 1. As far as the issues regarding annexation and development in Sedgwick County, we understand that that can be an issue. This entire property is almost completely surrounded with City of Wichita jurisdiction. So therefore, it's somewhat disingenuous to suggest that there will be conflicting codes in the future, because city codes are going to be in place on this property. We are all aware that this property cannot be platted, nor can building permits be issued, nor can city services be provided without annexation into the City of Wichita. We will be requesting annexation. We can do so at any time. If the commission so chooses to make that a condition, we could do that prior to this going before a governing body. We are more than willing to do so. But as you all are very well aware, sometimes land transactions can affect the order in which these processes occur. It is completely typical that as a contract purchaser, my client would go through the process of obtaining the necessary zoning prior to completing subsequent steps such as annexation and platting. It's typical that zoning is kind of the first piece of the puzzle to put together. So while we understand concerns of staff that the area is currently in an unincorporated area, that will not remain the case. This property will be part of the City of Wichita and within the jurisdiction. There are some very unique characteristics about this property. It is at the intersection of a major arterial and a state highway. There's a great deal of floodplain, floodway, and significant protections have already been incorporated in this language that we crafted based on staff recommendations for the compatibility setbacks. Again, the separation requirements, the screening, the landscaping. These all set a very reasonable framework for a mixed-use development that will bring this property in line with some of the character of the development of the area around it. We did, again, include all of these recommended staff conditions in our text of the PUD. As far as some of the map issues about what's new residential and employment mix, it does make sense that the higher intensity uses would be more reasonable at the intersection of the highway and 119th Street rather than farther over to the west. So that would be in line with what we have recommended in the language of the PUD. But today we are respectfully requesting of the commission that you recommend approval of the alternative suggestions of staff, which we are in agreement with. And I will be glad to stand for any questions that you may have.
Is there any questions for the agent, for the applicant? Commissioner Mader?
Yeah, could you repeat that very last statement you just made?
That we are asking the commission to consider recommending approval based on the alternative recommendations of staff, and that we are in agreement with those.
So are those items in red? You would
Right,
be in
those are-
agreement with those,
right.
even though you feel like they came up rather late? You would be okay with that?
We've had a chance, to
Okay.
go over those, and we are in agreement with them.
Are there any additional questions or comments for the agent? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to make a comment on this? Now's the time to come speak. Please come to the podium and state your name and your address for our records. and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Diane Patton. I live at 1931 South 119th Street. We're one of those parcels that are down on the end that they were talking about. I really want to know what happens to all the wildlife. We've got deer, we have turkeys, we have possums.
Okay,
They've
ma'am,
been run out.
you need to direct your comments to the commission, please.
Who's the commission?
We,
Okay, so I
Good
really
looking
wanted to know
ones.
what happens to all the wildlife that's there now. There's quite a bit. They've been run out from all of the additions that have been put out there. We've been there since '95 and we've seen countless accounts of the wildlife being just destroyed. Just recently, in the last couple of months, someone went in there and shot 5 deer, just left them, didn't do anything with them. So I am a little concerned about what happens with that. I don't know if anybody can answer that or not, or they just get pushed out like before. Anybody answer it? I guess I'll sit down then.
okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this matter? If so, now's the time. Please state your name and your address for our records, please, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, William Richards, 1610 South Lemuel. My concern is along that western border. I live in one of the duplexes that was mentioned. And in fact, you can see the lake or pond there on the eastern edge of the property that butts up to it. So there's a tree line that runs behind there. And my question is, will that tree line be preserved? Is that part of the setback? Or can they take out will they be able to take out that tree line as part of the development? I understand it's in an area of the floodplain there, and it's unlikely to be developed, but unlikely doesn't guarantee anything. And also there are strong concerns for the wildlife in the area. And then finally, traffic. Just since Quick Trip was built at 135th and Kellogg Drive, the traffic on Kellogg Drive has increased dramatically. And if there's another burden of industrial put on the eastern side, I'm just curious if anybody has given thought to that. So those are my questions.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on this item? Last chance. Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the agent for any rebuttal.
Thank you, Kim Edgington, for the record. That tree line along the west is to remain. And additionally, there will be a greater setback of at least 50 feet if there are non-residential uses in the area adjacent to that property line. So that will grant greater protections to the residential area to the west. And then you've got the separation again of the detention area. Most of that area along there is in actual floodway, so there will not be any disturbance to that area. There is no opportunity to come in and fill that. That will remain in its native state. So those are issues that we will address at the time of platting as well, to delineate the floodway versus floodplain areas. And at which time we will also address traffic issues. This is a highly traveled corridor, both north-south and east-west. They are designed and engineered to carry large amounts of traffic volumes. So thus making it a desirable piece of property for development, of course. I will be glad to stand for any questions that you may have.
Commissioner McKay?
I gotta hold it down. A couple of questions, Kim. You just made the comment that probably that property to the west is not going to be done because of the floodway. Yet you have on your PUD, I guess it's number 2 parcel. Looks like to me there's no way in the world you're going to be able to get to it. That
Well, there is right of way that butts up to that to the west, but more than likely that parcel is not going to ever be developed just because of the challenges of access to the parcel, and that it will be used for potential fill dirt for the rest of the property.
The next question is approximately how much land do you have that's not affected by the floodway on this project?
It's about half and half. 50% of the land is usable land.
Okay. My third question is, you said you agreed to what the staff proposed, we approved.
Yes, all of the staff comments that are delineated in red, we are in agreement with.
Okay. My only thought is if without knowing, your PUD is, number one, I can't hardly read it because I'm just so small, but you don't have it broken down between the industrial and the residential. You just say
Well,
so much, and then don't. Really,
staff's red delineation does limit that commercial and industrial to just parcel 1.
I'm just saying that maybe the protection for the development situation, if you're agreeing to something they come up with, you don't have it down in black and white.
Well, parcel 1 is 60.07 acres, so that is the portion of the PUD that would be limited to commercial and industrial development.
Okay, but that's not shown on this PUD. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Well, the language is all on the face of the PUD. The 60.7 acres is printed on the face of the PUD. And yeah, it's unfortunate that that printing is not very legible once you scale that thing down to such a small size to get on 8.5 by 11 paper. So
All I'm saying is that you got, without knowing in writing or in a picture of what you're going to do where, that's what a PUD is for, as you will know. To say this is what we're going to do with this piece of ground.
right.
And not just in that large throw something at it.
So the parcel 1 would be the parcel that's limited to only commercial and industrial, and that language would get incorporated as staff has recommended.
Okay, thank you.
Also, let the record show that Commissioner Dill has joined us. Is there any other questions for the agent, for the applicant? Seeing none, we will bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the alternative recommendation by staff.
Second.
We have a tie for a second. Commissioner Warren? Okay, we have a motion to accept the alternative findings that staff has given us. And we have a second by Commissioner Warren. All in favor? Yes, Commissioner McKay?
I might want to add to my motion that both parties approve the second alternative.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, or?
The other Z. From what I'm hearing regarding findings since part of your motion, you don't feel that it would have detrimental impacts to nearby residential properties, that you do find it is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, in addition to that it is in character with the neighborhood and surrounding uses. I'm getting a nod.
Okay, that was an affirmative.
Yes.
Okay, and does the second concur? Okay, we have a motion is given and revised and approved by the motion maker in a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion has passed 10-0. Next agenda item is 4.6. Who's going to be doing this one here? Christina?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Christina Reith with planning staff here to present Zone 2630. The applicant is requesting a zone change from single family and limited commercial to general commercial. The 11.5 acre property is generally located on the north side of West Maple Street and then 1,000 feet west of South 151st Street. The southern half of the subject site is developed with a recreational vehicle campground, and the northern half of the site is undeveloped. So as you can see in the aerial here, this portion is zoned SF5 and LC. This portion is zoned SF5. They're requesting the zone change to bring the existing RV campground into compliance and expand the existing campground north. The applicant came to us with a protective overlay to mitigate some of the possible adverse impacts to the surrounding community. The PO as currently proposed restricts the uses on site to those relevant for the continuance and expansion of the existing business. Staff recommends adding an additional provision to restrict the signage on site in order to maintain compatibility with the surrounding residential uses. So I'll just go over the protective overlay really quickly. We are recommending that the site is limited to recreational vehicle campground and uses accessory to RV campground. So that would be open space, gas and fuel storage and sales, convenience store, and vehicle storage yard. And then we are recommending the prohibition of off-site billboard signs and LED and electronic message signs. And then all other uses not listed in the PO that are permitted in the underlying zoning district shall require an amendment to the PO. So should the zone change request be approved, the uses on site and development standards would change. As you can see in your table on page 2, that is how the minimum lot size, width, and setbacks would change if the zone change request is approved. Single-family zoning allows for single-family residences by right. LC and GC both allow for single-family, two-family, and multifamily residences up to 75.1 dwelling units per acre. And then GC allows some more commercial uses and a limited number of industrial uses. The Unified Zoning Code requires compatibility setback and height standards for the side and rear lot lines of properties zoned multifamily or less restrictive when they are within 500 feet of a property zoned two-family or more restrictive. So the property is adjacent to SF5 zoning on the south side and then rural residential district on the north and west sides. Section 4A of the Unified Zoning Code requires 1 parking space per camping space. And then Section 4B of the Zoning Code requires screening and lighting standards for non-residential developments abutting or adjacent to residential zoning districts. The Wichita Landscape Code requires landscaping for any non-residential development when abutting or adjacent to residential zoning districts. This is in addition to any required screening fence. Section 4B4 of the Zoning Code delineates lighting standards for any outdoor light sources. Any light pole within 200 feet of residential zoning shall not exceed 15 feet in height. In terms of signs, on pages 3 and 4, you can see the types of signs that would be allowed should the zone change request be approved. Balloon signs are not permitted within 100 feet of two-family residential, so those are not allowed. And then for building signs, no individual sign can exceed 400 square feet. And area of the building sign per elevation shall not exceed 20% of each tenant space elevation. And then even though LED and electronic message signs would be permitted in the general commercial district, we are again recommending prohibiting them in the protective overlay. The subject site is not platted. Platting is required prior to the issuance of commercial building permits. In 2011, the applicant requested a zone change from SF5 to limited commercial, as well as a conditional use to allow for RV campground on the northern half of the subject site, and these requests were denied by the Wichita City Council. The requested zoning is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the area to be appropriate for new residential uses. So that's where you find pockets of major institutional and commercial uses likely to be developed within this area based on market-driven location factors. So a commercial use that is residential in nature is appropriate within this category. The commercial use has also existed prior to many of the residential uses being built in this area. The locational guidelines of the Community Investments Plan aim to support expansion of existing uses to adjacent areas. And the purpose of the general commercial district is to accommodate retail, commercial, office, and other complementary land uses. Although the subject site is not within a regional commercial designated site, the GC district is the lowest intensity district that permits the desired uses, and the recommended protective overlay restricts the allowed uses on site to prevent an array of uses that may be inappropriate from establishing near existing residential properties. Staff is recommending approval of the zone change request subject to protective overlay number 489. And this is based on the golden factors, which are listed on page 5 of your staff report. I did receive 2, now 3 phone calls from the public from nearby residents who are curious about the application. And with that, I will go to some of these site photos. This is looking north towards the site. This is the main office of the existing RV campground. Next slide, please. This is looking east towards the site, towards one of the entrances. Next slide, please. This is looking south across West Maple Street. Next slide, please. This is looking west away from the site. You can sort of see that residential development just past that. Next slide, please. This is looking east away from the site. This is the portion that is adjacent to rural residential zoning. Next slide, please. This is looking west towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking east away from the site, just further north from the previous looking east away from the site photo. Next slide, please. This is again looking west towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking south towards the site, towards what would currently be the border of the existing RV campground. Next slide, please. And this is looking north away from the site. This is where they want to expand into. So with that, I will stand for any questions. Thank you.
Is there any questions for Christina? Christina, I got a quick one.
Yes.
Was this ever formerly, this site, was it ever formerly was it a KOA campground at one point? Do you know?
I don't know that information, but okay. I'll let the applicant answer that if they're
Yeah, the
not
reason
able
why I'm
to.
asking is because looking at the photos that you've taken into the site, and that structure that's there, that looks like an office, that looks like it used to be that at one time. Commissioner Austin?
Yeah, Christina, is there, under the compatibility use requirements, are there any compatibility standards for the recreational use with the residential to the west?
So RVs are not subject to compatibility setbacks. But any new structures would be subject to compatibility height and setback standards.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Christina. Agent or applicant? Are you the agent or for the applicant? Okay, you have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, council members.
Please state your name.
I'm
and,
Trenton
your address.
Switzer, and address is 15520 West Maple Street, Wichita. So a majority of the reason for the application is to really bring alignment with what's actually on the property to current zoning standards. The property's been in use as an RV recreational campground since the 60s without any issues, and that was actually before the annexation of the city of Wichita of the property. And so we believe that with the way that it was structured with the annexation of limited commercial in the front and residential in the back, it's not in alignment with what's actually existing on the grounds. And so we want to just bring it into conformance instead of, because the property is currently legal non-conforming. And so we believe the zoning change for general commercial with the protective overlay would allow us to be in compliance with what's actually there and in conformance. It also is a proposal to reduce what could be allowed there with the limited commercial in the front of the property. With the current standards of the limited commercial, they could put, a convenience store could be placed there, fast food restaurants, vape and tobacco retail stores. And our proposal is to limit the usage to just what's actually already there and has been in existence peacefully with the neighborhood since the 60s. So we're not actually asking for any changes. This would give us some flexibility to expand on the north side of the property. And we do believe that there is demand in that area for some larger, more premium sites instead of the condensed sites that we have in the front that had come with the property in the way that it's been since the 60s. We actually went through and talked to a lot of the neighbors before we even applied for the rezoning application. And the general consensus of the neighborhood was that many people were very supportive of the conditional overlays or the protective overlays of the proposal. Many were much more receptive because the campground has been there since before they built their homes or moved into the neighborhoods. It's not a big surprise. It's not that it was added after the fact. And so many people had the comments that, you guys have been here since before us. It's been existing peacefully with those neighborhoods since the 60s without any issue. And so that's the main purpose of the application. And the general consensus with the neighborhood has been positive. And even we went and presented to the DAB 5 meeting a few weeks back, and a couple of members of the DAB 5 are familiar with the property and know its history, and it has been a well-managed and well-run community. It's owned and operated by a local Wichita family that's actually District 5 residents themselves. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Sir, the staff recommendations for approval on the protective overlay 489 has listed language on 4 different bullet points here. Do you concur with staff recommendations? Do you support it?
Yes, the staff recommendation with the additional language, I believe, was just to incorporate our ability to have, we have very limited camp store items in the office where you guys saw a picture of. But I think the language from the staff recommendation was just to continue to not prohibit our ability to, have some limited accessories for campers that might be in need of a hose or a plug-in, or that's the general nature of I believe the commercial retail items that were mentioned in the proposal.
Okay, so that's a yes, you do support the
Yes, sir.
recommend, okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any additional questions for the applicant? Seeing none, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Stand by in case there's any rebuttal.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this? Yes, sir. Please go to the podium, state your name and the address for our records, and you have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Ralph Owen, and my address is 151 South, 151st Street West, Goddard, Kansas. And basically, we're the 40-acre plot directly to the north of the proposal. My concerns primarily from our standpoint, and also like O'Brien's, we have between us about 70 acres of land here. The zoning back in 2011 was denied. Does anybody have any kind of minutes to tell us why that was denied at that time? Because I'd like to hear the language to why that was denied back in 2011.
That was the city council that did that, not this board.
Okay. But the reasons might matter into some of that. And my question with reading what is allowed in the zoning that stands, it seems like everything they're asking for does line up with what's currently there. My comments, I want a little bit of clarification on some of the staff report. Specifically speaking with us and the O'Briens, which have the 30 acres, which is on the eastern part of that. For us, primarily on that north side, where it hits our south property there in the south west corner, and we're talking about here. With that changing with setbacks, it looks like there's no minimum setback if that is just rural land. We're in the process of changing that deed as well, so we're kind of more set up like O'Brien's with land with a single family home on it. So is there a setback requirement on this boundary for screening and that? Christine?
Philip, can you answer that question?
The parking of RVs for the RV campground, I don't believe require a setback from the vehicles. However, screening and landscaping along that property line are required. So there would have to be some space to provide for the screening fence in addition to space to plant trees if they don't want to use the existing ones in that space too. So there would have to be some semblance of separation in order to accomplish the screening and landscaping.
Okay, thank you, Philip. I hope
So,
that answers your question.
We would just like to have definition on that because that seems pretty kind of vague.
I think he just answered that question.
Well, so what is that in feet on this boundary right here? What's that setback going to be?
The landscaping has to be within 15 feet of the property. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a solid 15 feet of landscaping. It just has to be planted within, so however much space in order to either plant the shade trees or if they want to use ornamental trees, whatever it is to accomplish the landscaping to make sure that that landscaping has sufficient space to live.
Okay.
We would like a total screen in this section as well as O'Brien's would want that, to continue. Here you're pretty open and exposed from 151st. You can see everything back in here.
There's required a 6-foot screening fence, which
Yeah.
is, there's required a 6-foot screening fence, which is opaque.
And what is that constructed from?
Standard construction materials, wood, masonry.
Yep. Sir, I'm sorry. but your-
Masonry, is it chain link?
Sir, your time has ran out.
Can I request a little bit more time, please?
I'll give you 30 more seconds.
30 more seconds is a lot to cover from the staff report here. So our major concerns are we don't want to be bad neighbors, but we want to also protect that we do have the largest part of the land parcel here. We're more inclined to be participating in the core community values, which is so important here. You have it posted outside the door and part of the cultural richness part of what we'd like to see this land future to become. On that, the plan elements are for arts, culture, and recreation, quality of life, investments, parks and open spaces that promote arts, cultural, and entertainment. We're more inclined to see if we're in line after that change to do those types of things in this space.
Okay. Sir, thank you for your comments. Do we have any additional people that would like to speak on this from the audience? Seeing none. Sir, thank you. We will bring it back to the agent of the applicant for rebuttal, if you choose. And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you, council members. At this stage, we haven't applied for any building permits or crossed the bridge with what kind of screening or landscaping items that we would be doing if we even do an expansion to the north. Our main goal is to just bring the property in compliance to what's actually existing on the property and has existed on the property peacefully with the neighboring properties for 60 years. So with that, I'll rest.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there any questions? Stand by, sir. Yeah. Mr. Austin?
We're making you get your steps in. So
I'm sorry about that.
you're getting your steps in there is all. So going back and forth. But had a question for you. So
Yes.
the staff report and the zoning, you mentioned about setbacks and stuff, and the neighbors are expressing some concern, maybe if that there's some thought given to site design, how you design this site.
Yes.
Would you be receptive to, I think the staff had commented that the minimum setback's 15 feet in the staff report, but along that, maybe that north liners possibly go to 30 feet. Would you be receptive to accepting some of those elements in the protective overlay?
Yeah, I think we would be open to, some additional recommendations. I think the use of our property, if we were to even go that far to the back and to the north, it might be a moot point in terms of what the ultimate site plans would be. I do believe if we end up pursuing an expansion in the future, that the additional screening requirements and the fencing requirements would actually create more privacy and space in between, or, and our intention would not be to put something right on the neighboring property line. But if there needs to be some additional language to support that, we can certainly keep an open mind for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I also had one question on the lighting in the existing facility. What type of lighting do you have? And if and when you expanded to the north, what's the typical lighting arrangement within the site?
So the lighting that we have currently is a few overhead lights that are not, I couldn't even tell you the number of counts. I don't spend a lot of time in there at night, but it's not bright lights. We want to create an environment for people to be restful and relax while they're there, and so we don't have extensive amounts of overhead lighting that is high up in the air or creating cast off all over the place. And we would continue along that, whatever the recommendations and requirements for the zoning of, what was it, 15 feet high or something. And there's a lot of great products now with LEDs that don't have a ball that, that do direct light directly down as opposed to casting out. And we would want to take advantage of those types of products.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from any of the commissioners? Seeing none, sir, thank you.
Okay.
We will bring it back for the commission. Yes.
Thank
JR?
you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Austin, to maybe partly answer your question. So there are zoning code requirements for lighting, as you well know. There's also a title of the city code that directly deals with manufactured home parks and RV camps. It has standards in it for the layout and for design, and I think there are lighting standards in there that this development, assuming it does expand, would need to meet.
Okay, and a question for you, JR, then. In the staff report here, it talks about a lot of those different elements, but the only thing, it seemed to me like it was just a little bit maybe ambiguous that those design requirements, like a site plan and stuff, which would be typical of a conditional use, but not of a general permit, that they're just not included in the protective overlay. And I wanted the applicant, because if and when they expand, he may or may not be the owner of the property, that there's a clear understanding that these things that we were talking about as far as screening and those site design elements, they're not reflected in here. And the only way somebody's going to know it is to come in and pull a building permit. Would that be correct?
I would say my answer would be that a property owner and developer of a use such as this, there's a burden on them to do due diligence and realize what the code requirements are. So the Title 26, of course, is totally separate from zoning, but you're probably right, but they would need to comply nonetheless.
Would a simple remedy just put a bullet point 5 and say that the site has to comply with Title 26? Wouldn't that be a simple solution for maybe somebody who isn't as sophisticated as you and I?
Well, that's not going to take much. I think, I mean, the answer is yes.
Okay, is there any additional questions? Staff is recommending approval with a protective overlay 489. Do we have a motion to that effect? Commissioner Austin, do you make a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve, subject to staff comments on items 1 through 4, and then an additional bullet point that to adopt that the site has to comply with Title 26 of the
Second.
Wichita ordinance. Thank you.
Correct.
Commissioner McKay?
At what point in time does that go into effect? Presently, or when something's new been developed? I mean, it's kind of throwing a burden on the people if you got it and it's successful now. And you say, well, you gotta do this, that means they gotta go in and spend a bunch of money doing a whole bunch of lights. Which I don't think is fair.
Is there an alternative motion, Commissioner Fry?
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we approve the protective overlay to the existing RV campground only.
Do we have a second?
Explain what are existing, what they just showed.
Well, so it's currently out of compliance on the existing campground, right? And so they're asking for LC, to GC to allow that existing RV campground to continue. This would allow that to continue, but it does not speak to the northern boundary, which would stay residential.
I think, isn't that contradicting what the applicant is trying to do? Yeah, that's not going to.
And again, my reason for that is that neighborhood, like Mr. Owen spoke, is residential area. I would like to see that continue to be developed as residential area, not only to the north, but to the east. And for those existing homes that are on the north part, which back up to that thought that was residential, would now have to see an additional campground expansion. And they didn't buy into that with that idea. So by allowing the protective overlay to apply to just the existing campground, it preserves the rural residential neighborhood to the north.
Philip?
Can I clarify? You're saying applying only the protective overlay. Really, you're saying applying the zone change to GC and the protective overlay to just the southern parcel, to where the northern undeveloped parcel would remain SF5.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that defeats the whole purpose of what the applicant was trying to do and what staff.
Well, but I think the whole purpose is to get it into compliance so they could exist as a campground, because it's not in compliance right now.
Let's ask the applicant.
Okay. This is a little unorthodox, but I am going to ask a question of the applicant, please. Would you please come back up to the podium?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to make a comment on the substitute motion that was made, that this is the request would only apply to the southern part of your property and not the northern part?
I mean, the challenge with that is if the northern part of the property doesn't conform with the remainder of the property, then we just have this large piece of land that we can't put a house on. If we built a house back there, there's no access to legitimate single family 5. So we just don't believe that having that be single family 5 is with the 2 parcels being there the way that it is. Our goal is to be able to unify them so that they have one existing similarity across the zoning on the 2 parcels. Because at this point, single family 5 just doesn't allow us to do anything with it. And we couldn't build homes and we couldn't do anything. No developer would want to, it really restricts our ability to do anything with the property itself.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioner Austin? No. Thank you. If there's no additional comments, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have a alternative motion. Is there a second to that motion? If not, that motion has died. And now we'll go back to the original motion.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to answer Commissioner McKay's question about if we adopt the overlay subject to Title 26. That really gets into a question of either one, the code enforcement, whether the applicant would be required to bring his existing facility up to standards. And if the answer is yes, then I think it's the same question for the applicant. If we adopt it, is the applicant prepared to bring the existing stuff in compliance with Title 26?
JR?
Thank you. He hasn't been, nor did the prior owner be required to. So I researched this many years ago when I was much younger, and it has a very interesting history. It existed essentially at the time of establishment of zoning. It's tied to the Goddard 3-mile ring. It's a little confusing, so you might be able to appreciate it, Commissioner Austin. It has an unapproved conditional use. There many uses existed at the time of that zoning action, and that's how they were handled. They gave them unapproved conditional uses. This one was very specific that any expansion in the future would be required to go through proper procedures at that time. So I think the LC is only on the front part, does not even cover the entire current camp. There's been no move that I'm aware of to make them comply. Certainly I haven't, my staff hasn't. But any expansion, any change is then going to trigger current requirements. So both for zoning, which is why they're here, as well as Title 26 requirements. Correct.
Okay. So my question to the motion maker, do you want to amend your motion referring to the Title 26, or do you want to leave it the way it stands?
I'd like to leave it the way it stands, but I would like to hear the applicant response that he understands that with the adoption of that motion that he would, as Mr. Cox has just expressed, that he would have to bring his existing facility into compliance.
Commissioner Austin, the existing part that's there today, I'm not certain that would be the case to bring it into full compliance with Title 26. It might not even be feasible. Anything new absolutely would have to be.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to make a substitute motion, alternative motion that we approve the application as given per staff recommendations because of the overlay at 489 as given.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional comments? Saying none. Everyone supported the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have a show of hands that.
Probably just a show of hands of who's not in favor of the motion.
Yes.
So just Fry and Austin.
2, so that's 9-2, is that correct? The motion passed 9-2. Next agenda item that we have is 4.7, zone case 2026-00031 in the city. And Samuel, this is yours, I believe.
Good afternoon. Samuel Dietz, presenting planner. Zone change 2026-31 is a request from LC Limited Commercial to GC General Commercial. Property is 1.45 acres and is located at the southwest corner of East Kellogg and South Mission. The applicant is requesting the zone change in order to allow vehicle repair general on the site. Currently, the LC Limited Commercial zoning allows for vehicle repair limited, which permits maintenance of vehicles within an enclosed building. This would include brake repairs, engine and transmission repairs, tune-ups, tire repairs, alignments, and so forth. Vehicle repair general differs in that it permits bodywork, fender repair, auto body painting, and more. And this would be permitted in the GC General Commercial. The applicant plans to use the existing building on the property to operate the auto body shop. The existing building was constructed in 1973. The applicant has indicated that the maintenance bays would be located near the center of the property. The zoning code does require that work be done within an enclosed building. GC general commercial is the most restrictive zoning that allows for vehicle repair general. The requested zone change, if approved, would allow for more commercial uses on the site. The table in the staff report shows some of those changes to development standards that primarily impact the uses, as well as front and side setbacks. Compatibility standards do apply to all properties zoned MF18 or less restrictive when within 500 feet of property zoned TF3 two-family residential. This would apply to the subject property, in addition to a maximum height of 35 feet when within 50 feet of TF3 zoning or more restrictive. Solid screening that's 6 to 8 feet in height must be provided on the site where abutting or across a street or alley from residential zoning. The subject site is across an undeveloped alley from residential zoning to the south. Renovations and additions to the existing building may require the site to come into compliance with the Wichita Landscape Code, which would require 1 shade tree per 500 square feet of required landscape street yard. Landscape buffer would also be required along the south property line where abutting TF3 zoning. The character of the neighborhood is a mix of commercial and residential. Property to the north is the unzoned Kellogg, US 54, US 400. Property to the south across the undeveloped alley is zone TF3 and developed with single family dwellings. Property to the east across South Mission is zoned LC within CUP DP-305 and developed with an auto dealership. Property to the west is zoned LC and developed with a hotel. Subject site was platted in 1981 as part of the Andeal Second Edition. There was also a variance in 1981 to reduce the number of required off-street parking spaces. As far as public services are concerned, the site has access to East Kellogg Drive, a two-lane, one-way arterial street with sidewalks on one side, and South Mission Road, which is a two-lane local street with sidewalks on one side. Municipal water and sewer already serve the site, as well as Wichita Transit within a half mile to the south. The requested zoning is in partial conformance with the Community Investments Plan, which identifies the area as appropriate for commercial uses. Vehicle repair general is permitted in the GC General Commercial District, which partially aligns with the goals of the plan. Within the plan, the locational guidelines provide a decision-making framework regarding land use changes. One of the development patterns states that industrial and major commercial land uses that generate pollution, odor, noise, light, safety hazards, and high levels of traffic should be located away from residential areas and developed with screening, buffering, and site design features sufficient to mitigate adverse impacts. Additionally, the plan states that development abutting targeted arterials, Kellogg Freeway, gateways, and landmarks should consider the inclusion of site design features that increase the sense of quality of life through emphasis of visual character and aesthetic improvements. The proposed vehicle repair general may generate negative impacts on adjacent properties, particularly odor from a paint shop typically associated with this type of use. The odor could be considered a nuisance to nearby residential properties. The Wichita Places for People plan, the requested zone changes in partial conformance with this plan, which provides recommendations for urban infill development in the established central area. The plan's recommended strategies help guide the community in their actions to create walkable places within Wichita. Vehicle repair general does not align with strategy 2, which is to improve the connectivity within the ECA for all modes, with special attention to pedestrians and cyclists between neighborhoods and commercial services. It also does not align with strategy 6 to encourage infill and redevelopment that is contextual to the environment in which it is occurring. There are instances of GC zoning to the west and east of the subject site, but the majority of zoning along this portion of East Kellogg is LC limited commercial. Possible negative impacts could be detrimental to the welfare of the residences nearby. The Unified Zoning Code purpose statement for the General Commercial District is to accommodate retail, commercial, office, and other complementary land uses. The use of vehicle repair general within the GC district is commercial use, which is generally not compatible with low-density residential development. If we could go to the site photos, please. This is looking west towards the site. This is looking south towards the site. So this is looking east towards the site. This is looking west along the site with the undeveloped alley in the center. This is looking northeast away from the site. This is looking southeast away from the site. This is looking north away from the site. And this is looking west away from the site. At this time, staff have not received any public comments regarding the request. However, we have had 3 letters of support from the applicant and businesses associated with the applicant. Based on the information in the staff report, staff is recommending denial of the zone change. However, there is an alternative approval option for GC General Commercial with a protective overlay 493 in your staff report. Some of those provisions include that uses would be restricted to LC in addition to vehicle repair general. The site would be limited to 1 paint booth, which would be a minimum of 70 feet from the south property line. The exhaust system would have to be along the northern portion of the building. Landscaping must be installed pursuant to the landscape code, and additional restrictions would be placed on speakers and signage and lighting. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Fry?
Thank you. Sam, I appreciate the presentation. Just a quick question related to the possible use of a paint shop. You say 70 feet from the south property line. What is the distance now from the back of the building to the property line?
Just over 70 feet.
Just over 70 feet? And that's, okay. Thank you.
Okay, just to follow up on that, you said the distance between the back of the building and the property line right now is over 70 foot?
That is correct.
And then why is staff recommending that it be on the northern part of the building when it's within that 70-foot area now?
Staff is recommending that it be a minimum of 70 feet. The building itself is located just over that 70 feet right now, so it would prevent any new construction of a paint booth to the south of the existing building.
Okay, so you're referring to new construction. So if they was to put a paint booth in the existing building, that wouldn't be an issue.
That is correct.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, the property just to the east, that is Schofield's dealership now. Do they have a paint booth that you're aware of?
I am not aware of whether or not they have a paint booth.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for staff? Seeing none, agent or applicant, please. And you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Dave Brown, agent for the applicant. Our applicant today is Auto Images, owned by Mike and Michelle Wagner.
Excuse me, Mr. Brown, can you give your address for our record, please?
Oh, my address? My office address or personal address?
Any address you want to provide?
1617 North Waterfront Parkway, PenFed Realty.
Thank you.
So I've been working with the Wagners for about 3 years to find a suitable location to relocate their current business, which currently operates in more than one facility due to the types of aspects of their business. It's very difficult to find a new high-profile location along Kellogg, and I believed this building was very suitable for their for what they need to do. For one, the building has set pretty much empty, 25% or less occupancy for most of the last half decade since COVID. It's been through multiple owners, and those owners have been either unable to or unwilling to put in the kind of investment that's necessary to attract new tenants that would make that a viable retail district on the corner. I believe it's very well suited for an owner occupant. So I want to introduce you a little bit to who Auto Images is. I gave you some handouts there, and you can see from the second page what the building currently looks like, and the third page what is proposed this building be transformed into. So Auto Images produces or provides paint protection services in the form of a microfilm, ceramic microfilm that's applied mostly to people who drive pretty high-end cars. At the price that cars are going today, we're all driving pretty high-end cars, right? But their clientele consists mostly of the major luxury dealerships here in town, including Honda right next door, who you have a letter from AJ in support of. He would love to see this building next door. They also do vinyl wrap and window tinting, but they do a small amount of their business doing paint jobs. So what I want you to understand is we're not talking about a body shop that has high overhead doors that are open all day long and it's dusty and they're bringing in vehicles that are damaged. We don't even accept tow vehicles. These are all operable vehicles that for some reason need a small amount of repair and or paint to make them up to speed for the other services they do as well. In fact, a big part of their clientele, the car dealerships, will send them their trades that maybe have a scratch or a dent or a ding that they want to enhance that before they put it out on their retail lot. So, you know, this is a business that Mike has grown over the last 20 years. He's more than $2 million in retail sales annually, employing 16 people. But he has to go back and forth from several locations to facilitate this business. This not only would give him a more high-profile location that would clean up this corner, but would also allow him to grow this business, potentially employ more people because he's doing less time managing and more time getting business, which would require more people to do said business. The overlay protection, or the overlay 493 that's being proposed by staff, is perfectly fine with us. As stated, the building is 75 feet from the southern line. The paint booth, which we only have one of, which is again is one of the requirements they're stating, would be inside the building. And again, I want you to understand, this is all air-conditioned space. This is not a big metal shop building that the doors open 90% of the time and fans are blowing. His workers work in air conditioning. They are doing mostly just cleanup detail work that needs to go into a paint booth to freshen up the exterior of that car. There are already lighting poles in place. There's no need to put it to disagree with that restriction because we're not putting any more in there. There's no need for any lighting, LED signing or anything on that southern exposure. So all the overlay requirements are perfectly fine with the client in terms of accepting that. We really just need the ability to enhance the business by consolidating in one location by having one singular paint booth where they can perform the business faster, more efficiently, as well as grow it. As well as on the back side of the building where it butts residential, we're not even going in through there. These doors, the overhead door for the paint will be on the front. We want our clients to see and understand what we're doing. And so it'll look more like a showroom at one of the high-end dealerships than it would a paint facility in an industrial park.
Okay, sir, so what you're saying is that your paint booth would be inside the existing building?
It is inside the existing building. It would be vented through the ceiling somewhere near the center of that building. So it's far away from the 70-foot guideline or recommendation. And it is also air conditioned, the booth itself. So
Staff is recommending an alternative findings. Do you support those alternative findings? Do you agree?
We do, because we already meet all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional questions for yes, Commissioner Fry?
Thank you. Just want to clarify, because you just said that the exhaust system will be in the central part of the building. and staff's recommendation is on the northern portion of the building. I know I'm splitting directional hairs here, but want to make sure you're okay with it saying on the northern portion of the building.
Yes, so it would be through the ceiling, and because of how large it is inside the building, you're talking about coming in approximately 85 feet from the back wall and the vent going out through there. So we are, if you split the building down the center, it would definitely be on the northern portion, but we would work with engineers to get it completely to the north if that's the requirement that is placed upon us.
But now I'm a
Thank
little
you.
confused. I have a question. Staff has already said that the distance between the property line is over 70 foot now. So what difference would it make whether it goes at the back of the building, which is well within that 70 foot, or middle of the building or in front of the building?
To me, I don't think it would make any difference either. We're just trying to
Long as
comply
it's-
with the request of the staff, but
You know, and when we asked the staff about that, he's referring, and he plainly said, nothing outside the building. So as long as this is inside the building, you would be in compliance with staff recommendations to 70 foot. That's the way I read that. Is
yes.
that, am I right?
I think we're getting a couple hairs crossed. The location of the paint booth, physical location of the booth has to be 70 feet from the property line. Staff is recommending that the vent from that booth be on the northern portion of the building, which he says that they can accomplish, so that as it's venting odors out of the paint booth, that the vent is farther away from the property line on the south.
Okay, I stand corrected. I understand. And you are good with that, sir?
Yes, because if you map we're 85 feet from the property line for the back end of the booth before you move forward, and then we can just move the vent up on that forward portion of the northern portion of the building. But it would be through the roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any additional questions, Commissioner Zimmerman?
Are there any cars for sale on this lot or not?
No, we don't do any, or they don't do any retail sales of anything other than the paint, the application of the ceramic gel coat, wrap, like you want your car wrapped with your logo, window tinting, all that. And 90% of this business is done for a dealership referral to them. People go in and buy a new luxury Mercedes. They want this coat done. They finance it right into that car. They ship the car over to us. We perform, send it back. Any cars left overnight would be parked inside. That's a safety thing. You know, we don't want anybody, you know, vandalizing our client's property of any way, trying to steal it. I mean, so they're housed inside. So it's almost like a car dealership without the sale of cars in terms of its look, its services and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any additional comments, questions? Seeing none, is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak on this? Yes, sir. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address for our records.
Garrett Hake, 114 North Wabash, Wichita. I'm with Icon Structures. I'm the general contractor working with Auto Image here. We will work to withstand in these protective overlays with our design team and the engineering firms. The only concern that I would ever have with the exhaust system is maybe seeing it from the street, you know, not having windscreens or protective screens. But other than that, I think we can make everything work as requested by staff.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this item? Now's the time. Saying none, we'll bring it back to the commission.
I move for approval with alternate findings from the staff.
Second.
We have a motion for, to approve for the alternative findings based on staff recommendations. And Commissioner Fry was the second. And Commissioner Johnson made the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion passed 11-0. Next agenda item, item number 9, DER 2026-00007. Justin, you're up, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commission. Justin Constantino to provide a brief introduction on this case before I turn it over to Heather Schroeder from downtown Wichita to get into the specifics of the new Downtown Wichita Action Plan 2035. Downtown Wichita has developed a new downtown action plan that requires an MAPC resolution adopting the new plan as an element of the comprehensive plan. The city of Wichita contracts with downtown Wichita to provide development services in the city's core. The contract is funded through a self-supported municipal improvement district, or a SMID, designating downtown as the geographic area bounded by Washington Avenue, Central Avenue, Kellogg Avenue, and the Arkansas River. You'll see shortly that the draft action plan area actually extends beyond those boundaries. The draft plan has been reviewed by 5 of the 6 district advisory boards and was unanimously recommended for approval by the Advanced Plans Committee on June 11th. Again, just to reiterate the recommended action today, it is to pass a resolution adopting the Downtown Wichita Action Plan 2035 as an amendment to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan, and then also recommend that the governing body approve an ordinance adopting the action plan as an element of the comprehensive plan, and recommend that the Board of County Commissioners approve a resolution adopting the action plan as an element of the comprehensive plan. So that's what the process looks like. If there's any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those. If not, I'll turn it over to Heather for the specifics of the plan.
Well, too bad you couldn't have shortened up the recommendation, huh?
It'd be nice, but.
As written, yeah, there you go. Justin, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm just going to say next slide, please, and we'll keep rolling so that we can share this wonderful community plan with you today. As Justin mentioned, the Downtown Wichita Action Plan is presented as an update to the 2010 plan. That plan was called Project Downtown. It was formed in conjunction with Downtown Wichita, the City of Wichita, and of course the people of Wichita. And we're happy to report that 15 years after the implementation of that plan, we've recorded more than $2 billion of investment in the core of our city, 119 completed projects to date, and a healthy pipeline of additional projects underway. Next slide, please. As of 2012, the 2010 plan had generated, a healthy level of investment in downtown. So this was 2 years into the 2010 plan. Next slide, please. And as we wrapped up the 2025 calendar year, this was the state of affairs. So everything that you see in green was a completed project during that 2010 to 2025 time period. Next slide, please. So in setting a new vision for downtown, we realized, okay, there's been $2 billion worth of investment. It's been 15 years. It's time to update the plan. So the first thing that we did was establish the plan boundary. As Justin mentioned, the self-supported municipal improvement district that downtown Wichita manages is shown in the blue dotted line. And in looking at the development patterns in the core of our city, we said, let's make sure that we're incorporating our neighbors into this new plan. There's a lot of development activity happening on the west side of the river in the Delano neighborhood. There's also development pressure on the north side of downtown across Central Avenue with Ascension Via Christi as a neighborhood anchor there. So we're working in conjunction with our neighbors, both north and west of downtown, in assembling a vision for future growth. Next slide, please. The following step was to revisit our market research. So we've been working with the same market research firm since 2009. We're very pleased to say that their market forecasts bore out in the 15 years since the 2010 plan was adopted. And so we went back to them and said, let's take a look at our updated market forecast. What can we expect, in the next 5 to 10 years for downtown Wichita? And they told us that our residential market is incredibly strong. We can expect to add at least 600 new housing units a year. That's what the demand would support. It's really a matter of our development community keeping up with that demand and supplying, enough to lease out. So they forecast, just so you know, our current residential tally is 2,989 residential units. And so here they're showing that in the next 5 years, we could more than double that, adding up to 3,000 new or more than 3,000 new units in a half decade's time. Our office market has also proven to be a little bit more COVID proof than we had anticipated. We have healthy demand for Class A office space, and one of the findings of the market research was that in the time period between 2017 and 2024, 90% of new Class A office leases were signed in the downtown district. So we're very proud that downtown continues to be a draw for our main commercial users. And then finally, the hotel market potential. We still have capacity to add new hotel rooms in the core. Currently, the downtown district alone has 8 hotels, with another one currently under development, the Hotel Indigo, right across from the new biomedical center. That'll provide, several hundred new units, new rooms. But there's still an appetite for additional hotels downtown. Next slide, please. So after kind of getting the lay of the land and understanding what area we were going to look at and what the market forecast entailed, we assembled a steering committee that consisted of city and county representatives, industry representatives, downtown stakeholders ranging from nonprofits to major employers, and had their input on who to hire to assist us with this task. Next slide, please. In the fall of 2024, we distributed a request for proposals, and we were hopeful that we would receive, maybe 3 or 4 responses. We were overwhelmed by the response. 17 different firms applied to work here in Wichita, and that really allowed our steering committee to interview and select the best of the best. And so we were proud to work with a team led by a group called Sasaki. They're a global urban design and planning firm, and you can see they had a roster of sub-consultants to help them in every area, ranging from landscape design to neighborhood branding, to, of course, community engagement. Next slide, please. So what is an action plan? What are we presenting today? This is the community's vision for how they would like to see downtown Wichita look in 2035. And then the reason we call it an action plan is because it's not just a vision, but it's a detailed toolkit. It outlines the steps of how we achieve that vision in the next decade. Next slide, please. So what the design team did was they came to town and they got to know Wichita, and they were very curious to hear, well, what makes this city and our downtown unique from any other downtown they've worked in? The first thing they highlighted was our history of phenomenal architecture. They saw themes in terms of our building stock from the 1800s being both well-designed and durable. We have some legacy buildings in our district that we're very proud, that they still stand today as a testament to the quality of construction we perform in this community. Next slide. They also looked at our current zoning. Most of this district is in the central business district zoning. Downtown also includes some light industrial, and then of course the adjacent neighborhoods in Delano and north of Central, have additional zoning categories. But all told, we've only realized 15% of the development potential within the project site. So the image on the left shows our current development pattern, and the image on the right is how dense we could go given our current zoning in place. Next slide, please. Part of the reason that we have so much development potential is because the amount of parking that we currently have within the plan area. So what you see represented in red are surface parking lots. So that currently makes up 48% of the land mass of the study area. When we factor in structured parking, that number goes up to 60%. So more than half of our land area in the study area is currently dedicated to parking. So a lot of the work was investigating what would be higher and better uses for our community and for our tax revenue than the current, especially surface parking structures, or surface parking lots. Next slide, please. So we began community engagement in winter of 2025. We held 3 large community open houses. We held 3 pop-up events to meet people where they were at Riverfest, at the NCAA Fan Fest, and at the downtown YMCA. And then we hosted more than 50 stakeholder group meetings. And so these were thematic. We would invite all of the cultural leaders of downtown arts and museums to meet together. We invited all of our downtown developers to meet in the same room, which was a great conversation. We invited young professionals from the Chamber's W program. And so great to get all those different perspectives for each stakeholder group of what their priorities were for downtown. Next slide, please. Just to look at the timeline here, again, we started in January of 2025, wrapped up community engagement last fall at the end of September, and here we are in spring of 2026, ready to hear thoughts on adoption. Next slide, please. So that community engagement was incredibly informative. We asked the public to weigh in, through interactive activities on questions like, where do you bring your friends and family when you take them downtown? We saw clusters of activity time and time again along the river. That was the Arkansas River really was a gravitational point for a lot of our community members who participated in this process. We also saw a lot of density of activity along Douglas, starting in Delano, leading across the river into downtown. And then you see these pockets, for example, in Nafsker Park, in Old Town Square, in Old Town Plaza, where we currently have a considerable amount of downtown programming. Next slide, please. We asked our stakeholders, would you rather buy or rent an apartment downtown? If you were to live downtown, what would your preference be? Overwhelmingly, they said that they would prefer to buy. That was an interesting finding because overwhelmingly our options are to rent downtown currently. So we do not have that many options for people to buy, but there was a clear preference among the respondents. Next slide, please. We also asked about what activities people would like to do along the river. They told us that they would like opportunities to enjoy food and drink along the river. Currently, it is interesting that we do not have any restaurants that are immediately adjacent to the river trail. There is no current location to stop and grab, a refreshment as you're exercising or strolling along the river trail. And then we asked them what they would like the river to look like, and they told us lush and active. And we saw some examples from other communities that have represented that. Next slide, please. And finally, we asked, what are the cultural amenities that are important to you? And we started to see opportunities to tie those resources together. Again, this kind of mirrors where we saw those dots on the activity trail, on the activity marker downtown. And we realized that we have opportunities to kind of string together our cultural amenities that are currently isolated from one another. Next slide, please. So at the end of community engagement, we logged more than 1,000 interactions with unique Wichitans. And the design team got to work kind of assembling that, all of that feedback into a plan. What they presented to us were 4 goals and then 17 strategies and more than 100 actions to achieve those goals over the next decade. They also detailed 5 different demonstration sites that could be opportunities to realize this vision in our core. Next slide. So what are the 4 goals? Number 1, Wichitans expressed that they would like to see their downtown more connected. Currently, we have a very strong identity with one of our neighborhood districts, and that's Old Town. And then the riverfront, again, is a frequent place for activity. There were a lot of gaps in those activity maps in the center of Douglas Ave. So we have this disconnect between the east and the west sides of our downtown district. They told us that they want, more activities to draw them to the riverfront. I know that the city is working right now on the A. Price Woodard redesign, and one of the comments that came up was, well, there's not much to do in A. Price Woodard Park right now. So how do we activate our riverfront land to draw people there time and time again? Wichitans expressed that they would like to continue that tradition of great design in our downtown. As we begin to add new buildings, we're seeing new construction. We have our crane watch downtown. We want to make sure that what we're building new matches the quality of what we built in 1880 and is still standing today, and that we're using quality materials that will last another 150 years. And then finally, Wichitans expressed that they want to make sure their downtown is full service, and that means that you have all the amenities that are needed to live day to day in downtown. Chief among them, a grocery store. We heard that from many different stakeholders during those 50+ stakeholder meetings, that what would round out their experience downtown included being able to buy fresh food and ingredients right in the downtown neighborhood. Next slide, please. So we organized the strategies into 5 different themes. I'll go through those quickly for you here. Next slide. Theme number 1, getting around. How do we navigate within the core? Again, this pertains to connectivity. This pertains to those full service amenities ranging from transit to a bike network. And how do we highlight our signature streets, our main avenues throughout the district? Next slide, please. Second theme was living and working. So how are we adding to our housing stock strategically? Where are we providing opportunities for commercial growth? And how are we managing the users of both those residential and commercial uses in terms of on-street parking management? Next slide, please. Urban form, again, how do we activate our ground floors so that you have that continuous walking trail, down Douglas Ave? You don't come to a dead spot and wonder if I should, stop or turn around. Making sure that we're continuing that design quality as it pertains both to our buildings and our streetscape. Next slide, please. Looking at our landscape, how do we use tree planting, the river itself as a destination? How do we make sure that downtown is continuously clean and welcoming? And what are we doing to invest in public spaces that create a destination downtown? Next slide. And then finally, looking at those history and cultural sites, the tagline for my organization, Downtown Wichita, is commerce and culture at the core. So recognizing that a great many of our cultural amenities are located right in this target area, how do we provide a continuous experience for visitors when they start their trip in downtown Wichita? Next slide. So I'm going to highlight some of the strategies and the affiliated actions for you today. We won't go through all 17 and all 100+ actions, so we'll give you a little window into that. Next slide, please. So the 5 that we'll highlight are creating a cultural trail, building more housing, redesigning Douglas Ave as a signature street, activating the riverfront, and starting a downtown shuttle. Next slide. We'll get started by talking about a Douglas Ave redesign. Next slide, please. So one observation that the design team pointed out to us was that currently downtown Wichita lacks a street hierarchy. Every street is kind of treated the same. They expressed the need to delineate major streets from minor streets. And for us, it was very telling that, our main east-west street, the street of most importance to downtown is, of course, Douglas Ave, and then north-south would be Broadway. So how do we invest in those 2 streets in particular to make sure that they're getting the biggest, giving the biggest impact? Next slide. They started to provide examples of other communities that have invested in signature streets and the impact that that had on the local economy. Next slide. So right now, we have a lot of competing uses on our sidewalks downtown. I remember last spring when our Flowers on Douglas watering crew was navigating their watering Kubota down the sidewalk. They said, we can't get through anymore. There's a new sidewalk cafe. And I said, that's a great problem to have. I love that we have a new sidewalk cafe, and I love that we have a flower program. But the reality is that as we have more users and more activity downtown, our current sidewalks are not designed to accommodate the level of activity that we're desiring. So between tree plantings, benches, parking meters, sidewalk cafes, strollers, bikes, scooters, people with suitcases. We're seeing a lot of competition for sidewalk space. So one recommendation that the design team made was, well, what if you took some of the driving space and gave that over to all of these uses on the sidewalk? We consulted with the city traffic engineer, and they told us that we are overbuilt on Douglas Ave. Since the flyover was completed, most of our through traffic crosses town on the flyover. We no longer have the traffic counts on Douglas Ave that warrant dedicating 5 lanes to vehicular traffic. And so what's proposed here is a reduction to 3 lanes of traffic, which would allow us to expand the sidewalk on either side of the street by 8 feet. That is prime real estate for the activities that we're seeing downtown. That enables more, restaurants to have that outdoor space that's so valued. That enables us to meet ADA requirements. It also allows us multimodal opportunities. So, as you know, scooters and bikes are not supposed to use the sidewalk, however they do. And so this would allow a dedicated 2-wheeled lane. Whether you're on a scooter or a bicycle, you would have a dedicated space to make sure that you're not, accidentally bumping into somebody as they exit their apartment building or their office. I have seen these collisions, and they are very avoidable if we make sure that everybody has enough space. Next slide, please. So this is the view of Douglas at Emporia looking west today. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. And then we show a rendering of what it could look like if we take over that additional 8 feet of space on each side, have these areas of refuge kind of halfway through the crosswalk for pedestrians to rest. As our population continues to age, we need to make sure that we're scaling our timing of crossings, to the common denominator. Who is our least mobile audience, and how are we making sure that they are comfortable walking throughout downtown at their own pace? And so we look to examples, next slide, please, of where we've already implemented this. And Delano went through a process of narrowing their street several years ago, and we've seen the retail flourish, I would say, as a result of that. The car traffic has slowed, the pedestrian activity has increased. There are islands of refuge as you're crossing the street. They now have the safety signs up in the middle of the crosswalks. The drivers are respectful of people waiting to cross so that they can continue shopping or enjoying even their open container beverages in Delano. So we look to our friends across the river as an example of, how Wichita has already achieved this in one neighborhood and how downtown can hopefully repeat that success. Next slide, please. And we looked at case studies from other communities. One I want to point out here is Lancaster, California. They, in the top 2 slides there, you can see their before and after. They invested $11.2 million in their streetscape redesign when they had an opportunity to do a repaving project. And they realized $282 million of private investment along that same corridor. So great to see the catalyst that public investment can provide. Next slide, please. So our next strategy, activating the river. Next slide. It was surprising to learn during the community engagement process that only one of our current businesses faces the river, and that is our boat and bike rental facility called Boats and Bikes. And so we're grateful for their engagement with the river. But as new buildings come online, for example, we have the EPC development slated for the west bank of the river, making sure that those new projects take advantage of our natural resource being right there in the middle of our city and face it and make sure that we are providing opportunities for community members to engage with the river as they're enjoying an outdoor meal or coming to a shop. Next slide, please. We talked about transportation and getting around. The Q line has decreased in frequency. So the Q line comes now at 1-hour intervals. At its peak before 2020, it was coming every 10 minutes, and so it's changed in utility. And the feedback that we got from the community is that they missed that frequency and that ability to hop on and hop off and kind of get down Douglas Ave. So another strategy in the plan is to start a downtown shuttle. Next slide, please. So again, offering higher frequency, greater utility. Another reason for this is because the location of our transit center has shifted from the core of downtown over the river to Delano. So for those people who commute by bus to work to the Central Business District, they are now ending their trip in Delano and still have another trip to go to get downtown. So this shuttle would provide that direct service. It also provides a unique experience. We've seen other peer cities use really unique vehicles So it doesn't feel like you're riding the bus. You're riding a fun novel, you're taking a fun novel trip that kind of adds to that whole downtown visitor experience. Next slide, please. Encouraging new housing. This is a pillar of the plan. Again, our market research said that we can support up to 3,000 units over 5 years. And so how do we work with our developer community to make them aware of those opportunities and really home in on the product that people are looking for? Next slide, please. What the design team did was look at what parcels are available in the study area and what type of housing would fit on that. Next slide, please. And they emphasize the need for greater density downtown to support some of these full service amenities that we're looking for. There was the announcement 2 weeks ago that downtown will be getting a grocery store over the next couple of years. We need to make sure that we've got the population to support these new retail amenities. It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg, and we had a developer take a risk and commit to building a grocery store before our population numbers are really there right now to support it, but we know that that growth is coming. So that's very encouraging. Next slide, please. So what kind of housing types are we looking at? We heard from people that there currently are not family-sized housing options downtown. When you think about there aren't that many children living downtown, well, we don't have family-oriented housing. And so some of the suggestions included building townhomes that have 3 or 4 bedrooms that provide that opportunity for, a little bit of outdoor space, privately for the family to enjoy. And you string those together and you have a row house community. Looking at housing types that other downtowns have realized that we just haven't seen yet in our downtown. Next slide, please. And the last strategy that I'll highlight for you today is a cultural loop. So again, looking at the value that Wichitans placed on having museums and kind of public art and these performance facilities downtown, how do we string them all together? It was recommended that we assemble a cultural loop. Next slide, please. And so one example of where that loop could go is, kind of back and forth across the river, tying in with the Keeper and sites of historic and cultural importance right on Douglas and First Street. First Street is emerging as this cultural corridor as the Orpheum prepares to reopen, as Movement Music announced their new 3,000 person music venue right down the street from there. As we have anchors in the neighborhood like the Kansas African American Museum and the Museum of World Treasures, looking at where these clusters of activity are. Next slide, please. So Downtown Wichita, as a private organization, applied for funding from Downtown Rotary, and I'm pleased to report that we were selected for their the Wichita Charitable Fund's large grant from 2026 to 2027. So we will be receiving $150,000 over 2 years and matching that with funds from our placemaking budget to enact a downtown history trail. And so we're currently surveying members of the Downtown Rotary Club for nominations of historic sites to include on the first phase of the trail. And then we will be taking their nominations and putting it out for a public survey of what is the public's priorities for that first phase of the history trail. Next slide, please. We'll just scroll through a couple examples of what this might look like. Exact design to be determined, but we are working with Gardner Design and we're excited to see what they come up with. Next slide, please. There will be a digital component as well. We see people all over on their phones as they're tracking, Pokemon and doing different games on their phones. So the gamification will apply to the Downtown History Trail as well. You can collect all the sites. You can compete with your friends in a scavenger hunt. You can take a self-guided tour. It's important to us to make sure that we're able to add sites as history happens, and the digital format will also facilitate that. Next slide. In a future phase, we would love to add Cartholite markers as a nod to this local material that was invented here and is really unique to Wichita. Next slide. And then finally, what is our remaining timeline for this adoption process? Next slide. As Justin reviewed, we've been to the district advisory boards to present before them and receive feedback. I've presented to the Historic Preservation Advisory Board and the Pedestrian and Bike Advisory Board and the Transit Advisory Board. You know, it's been great to get feedback from those groups, incorporate that into the plan. We had the unanimous recommendation of the Advanced Plan Committee to come before this group. And today we are looking for your recommendation that the City Council and the County Commission both adopt this plan into the City County Comprehensive Plan. What that will allow is for projects that cannot be, you know, fully funded by the private sector, like our Wichita History Trail, that we can work together with our local government and prioritize spending, so that when, you know, when we have opportunities to repave Douglas Avenue, we're thinking very carefully about, you know, how we're apportioning that paint and that pavement to make sure that we have the maximum number of users able to use that space. So with that, I will stand for questions.
Is there any questions? Commissioners, everyone?
So I'm a retired builder. Did both commercial and residential. I've been asked a couple of times to be on committees through our local builders association about what can we do downtown. It seems like what we always run into is the utility part of it. Is, are the sewers strong enough to do this? Some of them could be 100 years old. Do we have big enough water lines to go down there? Have you run into those type of problems on projects you've worked about?
So far, the development community has persevered, and so I think we've had opportunities to update utilities, at least on a kind of block by block basis, as projects have dug into the ground. But you know, for like, let's give the example of the Hotel Indigo, which is a combination of a redevelopment of the Petroleum Building and the McClellan Hotel Building, and then a new hyphen in between. I'm not aware of any utility issues that they have run into in the planning phase that have curtailed or changed the plans. The drawings have been consistent. You know, as they now enter the construction period, demo is now complete. So it's great to see that project moving forward. I think it is a concern, particularly in you know, in the oldest sections of our city that were not built for residential development. But at some point, we've got to update what's below the ground. And you know, I think if the piecemeal approach is the way to do it, then at least we're doing it piece by piece.
Any additional questions? Commissioner Dill?
Yes, does this plan have any budgetary dollar amounts to it related to our annual budget?
Not for adoption. Every action in the plan, in the matrix that you received, delineates a responsible party, estimated costs, estimated timeframes, and so we plan to bite this off as we go. So from the city standpoint, you know, we hope to include some of these provisions in the next CIP cycle. From the county standpoint, you know, their process is a little different. So we'll be talking with the county commissioners about their priorities. But, you know, really it's a matter of, you know, how do we leverage the public investments, like, you know, that investment that they're already going to make in the road, and make sure that we're doing it in a modern way that encompasses the community's goals.
One more question. We spent a fair amount of time looking at the restriping of city streets in the downtown area, going from 4 lanes to 3 lanes, and bicycle lanes. And also associated with that, is it meant the city's expectations on the scooter and bicycle rentals that we've got so far?
So it was the question about the demand for those services. So the Wichita Transit, the city's transit agency, also administers the contract with VIO, which is the scooter and electric bike provider. Then there's the separate bike share through, I believe, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So I don't know numbers for that, but the ridership is great for the scooter and bike program through VO. I would defer to Penny Feist, the director of Wichita Transit, for those exact numbers. But when she shares those reports, it's a very healthy demand. And then just anecdotally, anytime that you're downtown, you see kind of armies of scooterers, especially in this nice weather, taking advantage of the opportunity to get a lift through downtown rather than, a sweaty walk.
You've also mentioned in there that I guess you did a survey on ownership or compared to rentals. What was that age group and how many people responded on that?
Yeah, it was general public. So that was during one of our open house activities. So, demographically, I depending on which, I can go back and see, what the zip codes were represented at that one. But I know we've had a lot of input on the plan from people who currently reside in districts 2 and 5. So I would probably want to look to the demographics overall for the city in those 2 voting districts.
Because I know there's been a huge push for affordable housing and everything else. I guarantee you this will not be affordable housing. This is going to be this is going to cost some dollars per square foot out
For-
there. So
for the
you're
ownership
limiting
options?
the demographics of people that are going to be able to afford that. So keep that in mind on that wish list.
So our development community in Wichita, has a varied skill level. What we're starting to see is developers coming in from other markets who have greater experience leveraging some of the federal programs and some of the state programs. So right now, at the corner of Market and First Street, a group out of San Antonio is building 100% affordable units in the old Lassen Hotel. And so that'll be 115 units at below market rents that are reserved for, working people.
Commissioner Maynard, do you have a question?
Yeah, this is multiple part of having come here 49 years ago specifically to work on downtown construction with the Urban Renewal Agency. I mean, I'm just giddy over this. One of my biggest complaints, all the things that have been done, is no money's ever allocated for maintenance. Looking at the landscaping at the ballpark, throughout most of the parks downtown, is there a plan to have hard dollars available for specific maintenance in specific locations?
I'm glad that you asked. So this is where downtown Wichita can play a direct role. So starting in February of this year, we have a full-time maintenance staff called our Downtown Clean Team. Their current activity is focused on picking up litter, removing graffiti, and providing hospitality assistance to visitors who are looking for directions or recommendations of where to go downtown. My hope is to continually expand that program every year so that we can add things like landscaping, perhaps garage maintenance, these other tasks that are required.
Have seen the workers downtown. It's great to see that. The landscaping's my biggest issue. One thing for council, as an owner of property of the downtown area that falls in this, am I allowed to vote or should I abstain?
This is, yes, we're just moving this on to city council. We're not necessarily voting to change anything. I would say that you are safe to vote in this.
Okay. So any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, the recommendation from staff and for the Metropolitan Planning Commission Advanced Plans Committee recommends that the MAPC pass the resolution adopting the Downtown Wichita Action Plan 2035, an amendment to the Wichita-Sedgwick County Comp Plan. Along with that is recommending to the proper governance do the same. You want me to spell it all out?
Did you ask for public comment?
What public? Oh, no, is there any public here? I didn't see anybody here. Sorry. Still, that doesn't change what the recommendation action is. Do we have a motion to That's a resolution?
I would like to move that we approve this recommendation and pass it on to city council.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mader for approval of resolution and pass it forward. Seconded by Commissioner High. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion has passed.
Thank you very much.
We do not have any public hearing items, but before everybody runs off, we do have a vacancy on the Wichita Sustainability Board. And we do have a volunteer that would like to serve on that, Commissioner High. So I will be appointing Commissioner High to serve on that board representing the Planning Commission. If you will get with staff to find out the dates, times, locations, and all that, and any other pertinent information that you'll be needing. And thank you for doing that, Commissioner. I much appreciate it. If nobody has anything else, we are adjourned. Tired.
Recording stopped.